Hello everyone, AmyR here from Prairie Paper and Ink with another STAMPtember limited edition exclusive collaboration. Today's collaboration is with Inkon3, and this is the bold and beautiful 6x8 stamp set. There is a coordinating die set. Both of these are available while supplies last. As with all of the STAMPtember collaborations, these are all one and done, meaning when they sell out, they are not restocked. However, all of these brands have fabulous products to choose from, Inkon3 being no exception. They have many fabulous stamps and products, and they also have other very large florals, which I will never not have a soft spot for. This floral is enormous, and it's really fun. One like this, I honestly think anyone can work with. I get a lot of comments like this at times. Like, I understand that images like this feel intimidating to a lot of people, but trust me, they're a lot of fun. And one like this, we'll get to it. Okay, so I am stamping this onto watercolor paper. I'm using some just Canson XL watercolor paper, and I'd used my anti-static powder tool on it. And then I'm inking up and stamping this huge floral with the VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. And then I'm coating it with Simon's Detail Clear embossing powder. You don't have to heat emboss this, but I like doing it because it gives raised edges to the stamp lines, which keeps the watercolor and everything contained. Plus, it's just a nice effect because it's, gives it that little bit of a shiny effect. And also, I'm planning on using Distress Oxide inks, which have pigments in them, and the heat embossing resists the ink so that the oxides are not sitting on top of the ink and sort of clouding the stamp lines. And I stamped this twice because why not? And what I mean by, an image like this being fun to work with is you could just do a bunch of these. Like just stamp and emboss just a whole bunch of them and then work on them at your own pace. But it's fun to experiment with color, with blending, with watercoloring, because while this is a very large image, it is very easy to color. Like all the details there, all that black detail, all of that is there. So all you need to do is add color. You don't really have to worry too much about adding shading and depth because it's already there in the image. And the size of it is nice, so you can kind of play around and use multiple colors and just see what happens. And that's what I did. I just got my hands on the newest sets of Distress Oxide minis. And I personally like the minis a lot. I have the full size, of course, as well. But what I love about the minis is I can have multiple colors sitting in front of me and they don't take up very much space on my desk because I'm always running out of space. And the other thing I was liking was I stuck to just what's in these like new colors. I didn't pull any other ones from my stash. And that made me use colors that I normally don't reach for and combos that I normally wouldn't think of. So this first one is dried marigold and ripe persimmon. And I don't reach for either of these colors very often. And they were in the pack and I was like, let's do that. So I have off to the side, off camera, I have a big jar of water. That's what I rinse my brush out and use. And I'm using my Altenew watercolor brushes for this. Most of the time when I am painting with like distress inks, etc., I use my little Tim Holtz water brush. But this is like I said, this is obviously a big image. It's a lot more surface area. So a larger brush just makes things a little easier. So I use one brush to just apply water to each area. And this is where it comes into play having everything heat embossed. Because those raised edges are my little bumper pads and they keep everything contained. Like each petal is its own contained section. And then that way I can paint all these like side by side and they're not running into each other, which isn't the end of the world. But by keeping it more contained, everything looks a little cleaner, if that makes sense. And I just go back and forth with that dried marigold and ripe persimmon. I use the dried marigold towards all the tips of the petals and then the ripe persimmon at the base and then kind of blended them together. And then I use those same two colors to paint the little buds. And with that, I was just kind of going straight in, like just swirling my brush in the color and painting directly because these are smaller areas. And again, oxides, as Tim Holtz says, they're creamy dreamy. They're fun. So then I was like, I want to add a little bit more. So then I pulled out Wild Honey just to do the little bit of flower center there. And then I added Fired Brick, which is another color I don't reach for very often, but it was in the pack. And I was like, let's add that. Let's do that. And I really like this combo. I really like this combo. So dried marigold, ripe persimmon, and Fired Brick. Very fall, a very fall color combo. And just pretty. Really pretty. So this is just very easy watercolor. This did not take very long. This is another one of those times when I say that I was just slapping the color on. I've sped this up a little bit in editing, but not a whole lot because it genuinely didn't take that long. But also remember, I have been, mucking around with inks and watercolor and all the things for a lot of years. It just takes practice. It really does. When I first started really playing around with watercolor, I found it very intimidating and frustrating a little bit. And, because I was like, why can't I get things to go the way I want them to? Practice. The more you do it, things just start to make sense and you start getting more comfortable with it. And that's where I encourage people, like, get some watercolor paper, do things like this, like stamp a bunch of images, heat emboss a bunch of images, or just play with a bunch of panels, like moving water around, moving color around, and seeing what happens and seeing what you like and figuring out combos you like. It isn't for everyone, but at the same time, you'd be kind of surprised because I didn't think I would like it as much as I do now. It became one of my favorite ways to color. It is just soothing. So I was also excited about this set of Oxide minis because this set has the Twisted Citron and Rustic Wilderness, which that is my go-to green combo. I don't know why. I really like the really bright citrus green of Twisted Citron. And then Rustic Wilderness is such a deep color. And the two of them together, just chef's kiss. Mwah, perfection. Love it. So that was my first combo. So then for the second one, again, still working with this specific set of minis. So this time I used saltwater taffy and candied apple. Another combo I would never... Just if I was, flipping through my distress inks, I would not think to put these two colors together. But they were in the pack, and I was like, well, let's just try it out. Let's just see what happens. Again, love it. Love it. Like, so good. So I did the exact same thing. Just wet the petals with a brush and just the clean water. And then the saltwater taffy towards the tips of the petals and the candied apple towards the base. And then I just kind of blended them together and just let them do their thing. So that is the unique aspect of Distress Oxide inks too, is not only it's because it's the mix of the pigment and the dye, but there's like some weird little things every once in a while that certain colors will do. Like when you add water to them, etc. They kind of get a mind of their own at times, and I'm here for it. Love it. So I painted this floral with those two shades. I went back in after it dried a little bit with just more of the candied apple just to, deepen it up just a bit. And then I used the wild honey for the center. And then for this one, for the greenery, I combined evergreen bough and pine needles. Two other greens that because I used that Twisted Citron and Rustic Wilderness all the time. That's just my knee-jerk go-to combo. So it's kind of fun. Experiment a little bit. And it's just always fun to do the exact same thing, but just change the colors. And it's always interesting to see how different of a look you get by just doing that. So I mixed those two together and got this look. And if I had the time, I would have done like 10 more and just kept playing with color combos. So once I was done painting these, I let everything dry. And then I die cut it with the coordinating wafer die. And if I hadn't had the coordinating wafer die, I just would have fussy cut this. It wouldn't have been too difficult other than like those interior pieces, which like in between the stem there at the bottom, that I probably would have just left. I would have cut everything else and then left that. So I did all that. And then I pulled out the Simon Says Stamp Scripty birthday background stamp. And I have a couple of A2 size panels of, this one is Lipstick Red, Simon Says Stamp cardstock. And then the other one is it Clementine? I always forget. Creamsicle cardstock. That's the one. I don't know why I always want to call it Clementine. Anyway, Creamsicle. So I lined up that background over the panels, and then I'm stamping it with Simon's white pigment ink. So just to give a little bit of pattern. And yeah, these are A2 size panels because that's what I make 99% of the time is A2 size card, 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. However, that huge floral in the Bold and Beautiful set could easily make, 5 by 7 cards, etc. because it's big, but I like my A2 size, so that's what I'm doing. So after I did that, I took the little sending hugs sentiment, which I love that little sentiment in the set, and I inked that up with the Ripe Persimmon and then the Candied Apple ink, and I'm just stamping it onto a scrap of white cardstock, and then I will die cut those with the little coordinating wafer die for that sentiment. And then my card bases are top folding A2 white note cards, so 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. I line that up in my MISTI, and I'm going to stamp that big floral on the inside of my cards. So I've got that lined up, and then I'm going to use a piece of Post-it tape right where the score line is so that I don't stamp past the score line because, again, this image is huge. It's bigger than A2 size. So I got that, the Post-it tape in place. And this first color I'm using is Simon's Rhubarb Positively Saturated ink, which isn't a super bright color, but it is a little bit more intense than what I want for the inside. So I inked it up and I just stamped it onto a scrap of paper. And then without re-inking it, I'm going to put my card base now back into my MISTI and then press down the lid and get the second generation of that ink onto the inside of my card. So it's just lighter. So I still get all the detail and a bit of the color, but it's not too intense so that I can still easily write over that when I want to send it to someone. So then for the second, after I cleaned off the stamp and the second card base, I'm using Melon ink, which isn't as intense. I could have stamped it off once if I'd wanted to, but I just stamped it full strength. Either one works. And an image like this, as usual, my editing brain, like as I'm editing, it's like, you wouldn't even have to color. You could just stamp this in color and do an entire card set. Keep them a little more clean and simple and just stamp this. Do like a rainbow of them. Oh, that would look amazing. And then add a sentiment. Ideas. Anyway, I also stamped a sentiment from that set with the Nocturne ink. And then for the card fronts, I pulled out the Giggle Happy Birthday wafer die set. And I had die cut it multiple times from the same creamsicle and lipstick red cardstocks. And I am adhering 2 layers together with liquid glue. And I do this a lot because the outline I had die cut from vellum. And I like to stack my sentiments. It gives them a little bit more depth and dimension, and it just, in my opinion, looks a lot better. You could just stick on 1 layer. It would be fine. But I like to stack them because, as Laura Basson sings, dimension is life. So I adhered 2 layers together. And then I'm going to adhere them to the vellum outline. And I just trace the back with the liquid glue and then press that to the vellum outline. And old me, previous me, would generally stack 3 layers of the sentiment. Stick it to the vellum outline, and then when I go to adhere it to my card, I carefully trace behind the sentiment on the back of the vellum because liquid glue shows through vellum. It's not pretty. It just is what it is. But I love vellum, so I find ways to work with it. And this is one of them. And what I do is I just take another die cut, and I'm going to adhere it to the back of this on the back side of the vellum. That way I can just trace the cardstock die cut with my glue, which I've already been doing. And then when I go to adhere this to my card front, I just put the glue on the back of the cardstock die cut on the back. And then I don't have to worry about tracing, dealing with the vellum, glue oozing out, anything like that. I can just put glue on the back of the cardstock. And then the other bonus is this pushes the vellum up a little bit. So the vellum's floating a little more. And if you want to intensify that, you could do more than 1 layer on the back, but I never do that because I just don't bother. But you could if you really wanted like to really build dimension. But just that one layer is enough for me, and then it works. So after I had assembled my sentiments, these card front panels I had trimmed slightly smaller. Like I just took like maybe 1/8 of an inch off, and I'm going to adhere them to my card bases. And I'd made sure to match the red one with the red card, you know, the color I stamped on the inside, the orange one with the orange, you know, so everything's matchy-matchy. And then adhere my florals, which like I said, this thing is enormous. I love it. I love it so much. So adhered that. And then I just put like one of my big acrylic blocks on top of it just to hold everything down. And then once these are adhered, I can turn the cards over and trim off the pieces hanging over the edge. Now, if you like leaving everything hanging over, that's fine. You just need to use a bigger envelope. I just trim them off and it's fine. Your eye just naturally finishes the missing edges when you look at things like this. And yeah, it's just paper. But for those that, you know, sometimes it looks cool too to leave it hanging off, but you just have to remember you'd need to put it in a bigger envelope is all. So after I trimmed off the bits, I can then trace the back of that die cut sentiment. So I'm not touching the vellum at all. I'm just putting the glue right on that cardstock piece, and then I can press this into place. And I was getting like interrupted a million times when I was filming this. It was literal chaos. However, because I was planning on adding splatter, and those that know me know I like to add splatter to just about everything. And I had the full plan of doing it. And then I got these sentiments, like I completely forgot, but I still wanted to add the splatter because that's what I like to do. So I don't like getting splatter all over my sentiments depending on what I'm creating. So with these, because the sentiments were adhered, easiest way around that is I just die cut this just scrap of paper with the outline from the happy birthday, and I use the sending hugs coordinating wafer die. And if you didn't have a coordinating wafer die, I just rip a little strip of cardstock or paper. It would be fine. But I die cut those and then laid them on top, so that will mask those off. So now when I add splatter, I don't have to worry about it getting all over the sentiments. And then for my splatter, I'm using the Simon Says Stamps Positively Perfect White Splatter Medium. Just made sure to stir it up, and in the process I managed to get it everywhere, but it is what it is. So stirred it up really well, and then I just dip my fan brush in there and splatter that onto both these cards. So I did all that, and then I just got to let that dry. And you could, as always, could just stop here or skip the splatter altogether, but I like the splatter. I like it a lot. So after I did all that, let it dry, I removed my little paper masks. And then as my final bit of embellishment, I'm adding some cherry Pawsitively Dazzling gems and some Mandarin Pawsitively Dazzling gems. And the bonus of these, as always, is they're little containers. Because I'll sit here and just like shake them like a toddler. I can't help myself. Yeah, these are glass, so they are very reflective. They always look weird, like with my camera filming straight down, but when I tilt them in the light, you can just see how like pretty they are. So I put a few of those onto each of these cards, and then just picked them up with the embellishment wand, adhered them in place with dabs of glue, let the glue dry, and these cards are complete. So that is the Inkon3 Bold and Beautiful STAMPtember limited edition set, along with all the other goodies and products that I used, which will be linked in the description box below the video. So you can just expand that and check it out if you are interested. These were a lot of fun. And again, I need more hours, just more hours, please, because to do more colors would be so much fun. But thank you all so very much for watching. Thumbs upping, commenting, it helps a ton. It is very much appreciated. And hopefully I'll see you all very soon in another video. Bye. Thank you so much to my amazing Patreon supporters. For anyone that might be interested in joining my Patreon community and supporting me, the link to my Patreon is in the description box below the video. For everyone else, as always, thank you all so much for taking the time to watch my videos, for thumbs upping, commenting, subscribe if you haven't, I'd love to have you. And here's a couple other videos for you to check out in case you missed them. Bye!